Hey, welcome back, folks. I've got four issues here of ESQ, all about the productions of Brian Wilson. Let's talk with let's talk with David Beard about them. Mr. Beard, well, four wonderful issues here too. A lot to dig into today. Can you tell us anything about American Spring?
Well, gosh, I'm still learning a lot about them myself.
So
But
I should say I don't actually have the spring albums, but I do have like some of the odds and ends that have turned up on other
yeah,
releases. And of course, Good Time became a Beach Boys song, that kind of thing. I was really surprised too. Of course, this is Marilyn Wilson and also Diane, I believe, too,
yeah, yeah,
on Spring. And then his last name's Sadler? What's his first name?
David.
David Sadler. Okay, yeah, same as you. All right, okay. I couldn't want to say Daniel. I knew that wasn't right. But yeah, I was really interested in reading about Spring because these albums never really seem to generate a lot of traction. So is there a reason why they never really caught on, do you think?
Well, no, I don't have any idea because it's an incredible record. Um, uh, Again, it might just be that it was the timing. Had that been a Brian Wilson record, I think it would have done very well. Um, it's great music. It's very well produced. 75% of it was produced by David Sandler, 25% produced by Brian. Um, but the it was weird, good weird, I guess, putting together these. I'm glad I decided to do the four issues about Brian's outside productions because it was such and I don't feel like I'm done. There's just so much. It's it's you can that Pet Project CD is a good CD for anybody if they're interested in Brian's outside productions. Yeah, there they are, Brian,
Yep.
Marilyn, and Diane. And initially, Spring. That's from an 8x10, and then they had to be called American Spring because there was another Spring in the UK. That was a problem for them. But really, it's all interesting music. Um, and I just think it's a part of the grand scheme of who Brian Wilson was as a recording artist, a producer, an arranger, and those four issues are really just they exist to inform um, fans and those who want to learn more about Brian and his development, um, so that they can have a deeper understanding because you could do that just by listening to the Beach Boys catalog. Oh, that's a very good one too because there's such a good interview in there. The very good liner notes in that one. Um, that uh, he, you just look at the Beach Boys catalog. He did so much work just with the Beach Boys, but when you take into account all the outside work that he was doing and how much he loved, I don't think many people realize how much he loved rhythm and blues himself. I think people just, oh, that was Carl. Yes, it was. Carl was a big Motown fan, rhythm and blues fan, and that would influence the Beach Boys music to a degree. But Brian, in the very early days with Gary Usher, with Rachel and the Revolvers, Revolution, that was with a young black female recording artist. And so that early stage, and that's like 62, 63, Brian was working in rhythm and blues. And I think that informed me just that little nugget of information to understand the types of recordings he was doing and why he was doing the types of recordings he was doing and the who he chose to do recordings with was in and of itself its own unique thing. He would just meet people, which is how he did the Honeys. I mean, all of it was just through happenstance of meeting people. That's all it ever was. He met Cheryl Cookie Stanky at it was a college frat party where the Beach Boys were playing. And at that time, he was Bob Norberg's roommate.
Yep.
And Bob was dating a girl named Ann Williamson, and Ann's best friend was Cheryl. And they end up talking. She talks to Murray, and Murray Wilson turns out to be a key figure in all these early things. But one of the most fascinating things that I discovered was that Brian and Murray were managing partners
Of these other groups.
of Sharon Marie,
Okay.
specifically.
Sure, okay.
Sharon Marie, and there's the photos of Sharon Marie with the Beach Boys that I ran, and then they're out there. You can find them. And Al's not in the photos, and David Marks is not in the photos. And that's when David was leaving and Al was joining, October of '63. So it's interesting. Was the idea? I mean, that's again. There's all these different things that you're going to learn. So, but there's still unanswered questions. So that was the most fun about it that I had going through this process, was discovering really cool things, and then just this finding, oh gosh, I didn't know that. Oh goodness, I had no idea. Getting handwritten letters from Brian to Sharon Marie, getting handwritten postcards from Mike Love to Sharon Marie, Murray and Brian, if I'm getting this right, Murray and Brian were producing. They were producing Sharon, and Mike was the manager.
Okay.
So that's all in there. So again, this and then she did 2 records, one in '63, the second one, Thinking About You Baby, in June of '64, which eventually becomes Darlin'. So and then I got in part 3, I've got the interview with Danny Hutton that picks up on that.
That was a good interview too.
It's all tied together. Thank you. Yes, I was David Leaf is a good friend of Danny. So when David sent in that letter saying that's one of the best interviews with, or the best, I don't know how he said it, but it was one of the best interviews he'd ever seen with Danny. I don't know enough about Danny. I just had a blast talking to the guy. He was there we are sitting together.
Yep, you and Danny.
He was just really open, and when we were sitting there together, Brian had just died a couple of weeks before, because Jed, I think, was June 28th, and Brian had died on the 11th. But Brian as a producer, we get really into the weeds in this, and the one thing I've been telling everybody, the biggest takeaway I've got out of doing these 4 issues was Brian Wilson would come in and do singles. He'd work long enough with somebody that would produce enough for a single, maybe both sides, maybe more than one single, but that would be kind of it. And when you get to, that's part 1 in your right hand, part 2 in your left hand. And when you get to parts 3 and part 4, you see him working with Danny Hutton and Redwood, who would become 3 Dog Night. Had they stuck around and had he produced a single for them, that would have been it. It would have been a single. So really the biggest outlier of all of his work is Steve Kalinich's The World of Peace Must Come, because that's an album he saw through to fruition. He's not on every recording, but he saw it through to fruition, and he shopped the record for Stevie. Can you see Brian Wilson going around trying to sell a Peace album to record labels? Well, and see, Friends didn't do well. Friends did not do well on the charts, but that message, the message of love and hope, was important to Brian.
Well, of course, Steve was involved on this album.
Well, that's right.
Well, as a writer
he's
too.
He's still in Little Bird.
I think more so with Dennis than with Brian.
Well,
perhaps,
yes, Brian worked on Little Bird
yeah.
and helped Little Bird.
Because when I read the article about him, this Friends was the first thing I thought of. So
sure. So you got to get the Friends ESQ from spring 2018. If you don't have that ESQ,
but I need to get it.
That's one of my, that's the issue that everybody in the band told me it was incredible. Bruce Johnston walked up to me and said, that is, but that was an amazing issue. And
Huh.
I just went, oh, thanks. But that, but I put the same amount of love and energy and passion, whatever you want to call it, into every edition that I do. So it's whether or not it's like music, I guess, to a degree. It's just being a conduit of information, and what sticks with people or what people find important is subjective. It's like some people like the Friends album more than they like Pet Sounds, more than they like Love You. It just is. I'm not. I don't. I'm very. I'd like to think I'm really good at presenting the information without trying to convince anybody of anything. That
Yeah.
the information you decide for yourself, and hopefully you'll be, the idea is always hopefully they'll be inspired to seek the music out. And most of those songs that are covered in those four editions, if they're not ever been released, if they don't have the Pet Sound, the Pet Project CDs like you do, most of the stuff can be found on YouTube. So
Yeah, pretty easily. And even a few things that aren't on releases like these tend to pop up on YouTube too.
yes,
So
yes, you
why
could
not?
just type in the songs that you read about, and I'm sure you could listen to some form of them out there on the internet somewhere. And
Yeah.
if you want to buy the magazine, you go to esquarterly.com. So it's esquarterly.com, and you'll see store, ESQ store, and you just click on that tab at the top of the website. It'll take you right to the thing, and you'll see you have to kind of go through. Unfortunately, the four issues didn't come out simultaneously, one right after the other. They're the winter 2024, the spring 2025. Then Mike got into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Then
Yeah.
Brian passed away. And then I picked it back up with the winter 2025, the spring 2026. Yep. So there's the summer in your
Two.
left hand, Brian's Memorial Edition in your right hand. So those kind of, I just thought, I so I'm a fan of great songwriting teams. So that's why I love the Beatles. Um, and the Moody Blues are I think my favorite all-time group. I love Justin Hayward and John Lodge and the work they've done together. Um, so when I saw that Mike was getting into the Songwriting Hall of Fame, joining Brian, who was already in, I kind of looked for a great picture of the two of them together, and I just, Brian's kind of licking his lips there because they're out on a sailboat, but I didn't care. I just thought that's just kind of a cool. It's a summer photo, and it just kind of spoke to who they were. So I put a bunch of their song collaborations behind them in the background to kind of convey the importance of the catalog that they gave us, that gave the world.
You
Uh,
have those nice collages in here of the singles and their chart positions too. That was a good
oh yeah,
addition, I thought.
I thought it was important. It's important to remind. Sometimes we just take. I think it's either a case of misremembering or simply forgetting or not. Yeah, or not paying attention. So yeah, so even Kokomo is a collaboration. It's not with Brian, but it's still a really good and interesting collaboration, in my opinion. I'll spend hopefully under 1 minute talking about it. Because people just say, well, Brian's not on it, blah, 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 or they have all sorts of
Yep.
reasons as to why Kokomo is garbage or what have you. Kokomo, folks, has Van Dyke Parks playing accordion, Ry
Oh,
Cooter on lead guitar, Jim Keltner on percussion, okay, Terry
right.
Melcher, Mike Love, and John Phillips of the Mamas and Papas and Scott McKenzie, I mean, all worked on that song. So just the songwriters, and Mike didn't do a whole lot to the song, but just the songwriters are the quill of 60 songwriters. And then when you put Van Dyke Parks is on that, Jim Keltner, Ry Cooter. I mean, wait, to me, you got to get over the fact that, yeah, is it kind of a cheesy pop summery 1988 song? Absolutely it is. But so what?
It
It's
was written for a cheesy pop movie, so it makes
well,
sense.
exactly. It's better than the movie in my opinion. But
Yes, much better. Not no contest there. But yeah, no, Kokomo was the song that made my generation into Beach Boys fans. That was the big song when I was a kid. I've forgotten Van Dyke Parks played on Kokomo. I knew he played accordion on Summer in Paradise,
So
but I
you need
forgot.
the fall 2018 edition of ESQ,
Now this,
which
add
is
that to the
which is
list.
Kokomo and beyond. It's a whole edition dedicated to that time period, with a really insight.
Huh.
There's some rare photos in there. There's a great photo of Brian, engineer Keith Weschler, and Mike Love when Brian came in to put his vocal tag on "Make It Big." Um, that's on there. Yeah. So
Yep.
there's all sorts of little uh, tidbits of, and again, I think history's been just the Beach Boys history has been distorted a little bit through the media, um, kind of giving us this impression that everything was always, if something came out as commercial like that record, then it was just garbage. And listen, if I put something on and I like it, that's it for me. And the song on that record that just still to this day, I every time I put it on, I'm good, is Somewhere Near Japan.
There you go. That tends to be the big favorite. Even people who I remember at Brian Wilson shows, people would say, "Oh, Summer in Paradise, that's not a Beach Boys album because Brian's not on there." Or Kokomo is not a Beach Boys song because Brian's not there. But even those people would say, "Somewhere Near Japan, top track of this particular release." So even though Brian's involvement would have been
Brian is on
minimal
the
then.
Spanish version of Kokomo.
Yeah, which I'm trying to find a single copy of, but I don't think it ever got a US release. Trying to hunt
No,
one down
I
from
don't think so.
Europe. Yeah.
No.
But it's been a
But
fool's errand so far.
so esquarterly.com, please go to the website. There's a lot to check out. Years
I'll
and
link it below too for our
Okay,
watchers.
perfect.
Yeah,
But
no
yeah,
worries. Okay.
so I got to plug a couple of issues you don't have.
Yeah, I know. Well, I started subscribing in 2020, so
Oh, okay.
missed a few things, I guess, more than I realized. So, alrighty.